C-SPAN's largest audience is on cable systems owned and operated by Time Incorporated's cable company, American Television and Communications Corporation. Time is also a major supporter of C-SPAN through direct contributions.
Montgomery, Alabama, the first capital of the Confederacy, is the focus of 2 days of special programming on C-SPAN. As we explore local politics and regional issues in the state, we invite our viewers to join us in the discussions we hold with Alabama political leaders through a series of live viewer call-in programs. Coming up next, the mayor of the capital city. Emery Fulmer presides over the affairs of the city of Montgomery and serves as the chairman of the state Republican Party. He'll discuss the growth of the Republican Party in Alabama. He'll give us an insider's view into local and state politics. And the mayor will outline what he sees as the priority issues for his city of nearly 180,000 residents. All part of our States of the Nation 85 programming from Montgomery, Alabama.
Montgomery Mayor Emery Fulmer, as head of the Alabama Republican Party. In years past, being a Republican in your state used to be somewhat of a lonely prospect. Has that changed?
Well, that's true. Republicans were very few in number, but I think that more and more are lining up with Republican philosophy, as witness overwhelming victory in Alabama for President Reagan November a year ago.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. C-SPAN is continuing its States of the Nation tour. We are in Montgomery, Alabama for 2 days. And during this hour, we will let you have a chance to hear from the mayor of that city, who is also the head of the Alabama Republican Party and challenged George Wallace for the governor's seat in 1982. Could you characterize for us, Mayor Fulmer, the Republican Party in your state? How does it differ in philosophy, if any way at all, from the National Republican Party?
Well, I'm a Ronald Reagan Republican without suffix or prefix. I think Ronald Reagan has done.
If you live in Alabama and would like to participate with a question or a comment this evening, that number is area code 202-628-2525. For all the rest of our viewers around the United States, this is the number you should dial, area code 202-783-2727. Now, that setup is a little different from usual procedures here at C-SPAN, so please pay attention to those numbers on the bottom of the screen if you want to dial in with a question or a comment. You are familiar, Mayor Fulmer, with the capstone poll, I'm sure, from the University of Alabama on state politics?
Yes.
Okay. His background in business was as a developer and builder of shopping centers before he went into public service. For him, let's go next to Daphne, Alabama. Good evening, caller.
Thank you, C-SPAN.
Thank you, sir. Your question.
Fulmer, this is more of a philosophic question to you. From where do you draw your positive...
Good evening, caller.
Hello.
You're on the air. You have a question for the mayor?
Oh, yeah, I didn't understand you there. I noticed about a couple or 3 weeks ago, they had Reverend Jackson and also Farwell were on the same program together, and they were fussing about something, each other more than anything else, which sounds like racial talk. Excuse me. But Jesse Helms was talking about little something against Farwell, and Farwell told Jackson, I feel like sure that's what he said. He accused Jesse Jackson of a hawking and spitting into?
Dr. Hubbard got away with handpicking it is the fact that they worked long and hard at being able to control the process of the Alabama Democrat Party. I give them good marks for that. They own it. And they were able to sit down and make their selections and make them stick. And the people of Alabama need to know that, and I think a lot of them did, and some of those people were not elected. But they were able to do that because they had worked long and hard at building a good political organization. And if people don't like that, then they must work long and hard in another organization so as to be able to defeat that way of thinking.
On the pronunciation of your city's name, am I doing it incorrectly?
Montgomery is the way we pronounce it.
I thought I was doing just fine. It's that northeastern accent of mine, Mayor Fulmer.
Sounds good to me, Susan.
I have 40 more minutes to practice on it. I hope I get it right for the caller by the end.
Okay.
Let's take our next call of the evening. We go next to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Good evening. Politics and the future gubernatorial race in that state. And at 9:30 Eastern Time, join us for a call-in program with civil rights attorney J.L. Chestnut. He'll be here to give a historical perspective on the civil rights movement in the United States. Let's take our next call from Montgomery. Good evening.
Good evening. I want to say a couple things.
Okay.
We have a very good mayor you have on your program tonight. We have a very wonderful city, and this man is to be commended for our great fire department, police department, our nice city streets. And I want to say it was a very, very sad day in Alabama when George Wallace was reelected. And for you people watching tonight to travel through our state, see our interstates being taken down and put back up, and taken down and put back up. That's some of our corrupted government.
Yes. Mr. Baker, what is the status of the political relationship between black Democrats and white Democrats in Alabama?
Well, I would say the status of the relationship is very good. You know, the Democratic Party in Alabama for years and years has always claimed to be the party of the people. And people have considered the Democratic Party the party of the people, yet even the Democratic Party in Alabama hasn't always let the people participate. But to answer your question very directly, the Democratic Party in Alabama has provided an organization together and will resume its role as the traditional dominant party of the best interests of the common good of the people of Alabama. I want to say thank you to C-SPAN for giving me this opportunity. You know, Ed, I noticed that the chairman of the other party had an hour on the program, and a state senator of one of the 4 state senators of the other party had 30 minutes immediately preceding me, so I feel like I'm having to respond in 30 minutes to an hour and a half of the other side. But I want to say I don't believe that's unfair because they need that little extra time, and I think the Democratic Party can hold its own in about a third of their time.
I want to thank you very much for being our guest, and before you leave us, I want to tell our audience that you're an attorney there. You served both in the Alabama House and Senate. You're a former delegate.
Thank you.
This special live programming from Montgomery, Alabama is part of C-SPAN's States of the Nation 85 tour of state capitals, an effort to familiarize our viewers with the politics, problems, and people in charge of state governments across the country. C-SPAN's special focus on the state of Alabama turns now to the role the region played during the civil rights movement of the 1960s and the struggle that led to the Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965. Our guest on a live viewer call-in program is J.L. Chestnut, Jr., a man who served as legal advisor to the Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr. He's a self-described agitator, a man whose legal credentials include cases that challenged the segregation of Alabama schools and litigation that ended at-large elections and made it possible for more black candidates to be elected. Tonight, J.L. Chestnut, Jr. will discuss his role as a civil rights activist and share his perceptions of the changes in his home state over the last 20 years.
J.L. Chestnut Jr., attorney and civil rights activist, how much real progress has been made in civil rights for Alabama blacks in the last 30 years?
Well, I guess